You are listening to the College Football Report with Eric and Ryan Robinson, only on the Central Indiana Sports Report. Eric and Ryan will be back on Friday with their previews and predictions for the first round of the college football playoff. Welcome, college football fans, to the Central Indiana Sports Report for a special edition of the College Football Report with Eric and Ryan Robinson. Kind of subtitle it the Notre Dame perspective. Also want to talk a little bit about Michigan football and what's going on there. The only thing I'm going to say about it, and then I'll let you two have your say, is 4 or 5 teams had a case. There were 3 or 4 teams going to get in out of those, and Notre Dame wasn't one of them. The only argument I have, and it's a really big one, is then why was Miami ranked behind Notre Dame for the last 2 weeks and nobody played? That's it.
I think that's what it comes down to from the Notre Dame perspective as well. If they were going to have Miami ahead of Notre Dame, why weren't they there the whole time the last 2 weeks of when they revealed the rankings? It didn't make any sense, but you could see the writing on the wall going into the last rankings. I felt like they set Notre Dame up so they could swap them. There really wasn't a good scenario for Notre Dame to get in there. If BYU wins, I think BYU was in. BYU gets beat bad, which they did. They're going to put Miami ahead of BYU, and which in turn puts Notre Dame and Miami back to back. So then they flop them. It is what it is. I'm over it. I just hope Miami goes to A&M and gets blown out by 50. Yeah, I'm hoping for them and Alabama to get run out of the stadium in both their games. My whole argument with Miami getting in is 2 spots separated them and Notre Dame going into that weekend, and neither one played. So how do you justify them moving 2 spots ahead? But I told Eric about a week and a half ago, I said, Notre Dame's going to be out because the moment the committee put Alabama in front of Notre Dame, after Notre Dame wins by 30 on the road at Stanford, and Alabama fights tooth and nail to get a win over a horrible Auburn team, they still moved to Alabama ahead of Notre Dame. And I said, all they're doing is setting it up for when they get blown out by Georgia in the conference championship game, they're still keeping them in. And that's exactly what they did. I don't think it was a huge letdown, and I wasn't happy about it, but I knew it a week and a half ago that they were going to get left out.
Well, let's do what every other division in college football does and have a 24-team tournament. And then if you're good enough to compete for a national championship, there's no way you're getting left out. And that's another argument. Miami is not a national championship contender. Notre Dame might have been.
Yeah, Notre Dame would have been favored at A&M, and right now Miami's are 3.5 point underdogs. So that tells you everything you need to know right there. I'm not particularly impressed with how Notre Dame's AD handled it. I think he got a little bit overboard with some of the interviews he was doing, especially on the Dan Patrick show. But some of that stuff is said behind the scenes, but I don't necessarily think you go public with some of those thoughts. What do you think, Eric? I think it was a bad look for Notre Dame. Yeah, it was sketchy, definitely. I like the one shot he took. I did like was the attendance and how much he wanted. He didn't say it, but he said it without saying it about how much money the ACC makes off of Notre Dame. That was his point by talking about the sellout. He said only 20% of the ACC games sell out, but 90% of the games Notre Dame play in sell out. So, yeah, there you go. ACC, Duke gets in the title game with 5 losses, but just regular season speaking, you got NC State going into Duke. The stadium's going to be half full, maybe 3/4. Notre Dame goes into that same stadium and plays Duke. It's sold out. It's just hands down. That's fact.
There are Catholics everywhere. That's a fact.
they screw up the first 2 weeks of the season, so we got to live with it. But man, they were playing some good football.
They were really too bad. It's the end of Jeremiah Love's career, especially in that run game. It's the end of kind of an era there with those two running backs. Kind of a shame. I would have liked to see them compete for a national championship, but until college football gets serious about its postseason, like every other sport in the world, these things are going to happen.
Yeah, one I mentioned it a month ago, maybe about like similar to the March Madness, the play-in games. I don't want to bore. I don't want to get into it because it'll take too much time. But everyone should check out John Gruden's take on fixing the college football playoff. It's
I
about it.
watched it. I watched it after you told me. It was great.
Yeah, it's spot on, and it's similar to what I mentioned about having play-in games.
Explain it.
The gist of it is you have to keep the conference championship integrity. I think it has to mean everything. I want that to be kept alive. So on championship weekend, when Indiana's playing Ohio State, BYU, Texas Tech, the teams that were playing for conference titles, that's round one. Those teams are basically a lock.
Love it.
To be in you're not going to get penalized for being in those games. You want to be in those games because it locks you into the playoff. Why would those teams have to play 13 games and Miami play 12 or Notre Dame 12? Those teams play that same weekend and fill out the other 4 spots in the bracket. There's 4 other games, 8 other teams playing on championship week. The winners get in. That's the gist of it. But he laid it out this year. It would have fit like a glove with these teams pairing up on Notre Dame plays. They had Notre Dame playing Miami. They had Oklahoma playing Texas, maybe. Yes. But seeding wise and ranking wise, it worked out perfectly. It's a great format. You got to watch the video.
Did it have all the conference champions in it?
Well, that's the only hole I could poke in it. Is you had Tulane and James Madison that were getting an automatic bid because they had already won like the night before. I don't know what you do. I don't know what you do with those 2 teams.
I think you have those small conferences play to get into the tournament, play each other to get into the tournament.
Right.
That's the way I would do it. 2 or 3 spots. If you have 24, then they can all get in, and that's what we should be talking about. Like every other division in the NCAA. I don't understand why they can't do what the other divisions have successfully done for the last 50 years.
Because there's too much money at stake in this one and not the other league. Too much greed, too many people politicking for their own agenda.
The money would be better. It would be, people would fill out brackets. People who would normally wouldn't be interested would suddenly be interested. Because they're filling out brackets like the NCAA tournament. There's no downside to a 24-team tournament. We're watching the FCS currently do it right now, and it's fantastic.
I don't disagree with you. I'm just saying we're not in charge.
That's true.
There's been people in charge for too long. Well, and I think we can all agree Tulane and James Madison have 0 chance of winning the national championship. And it's like we're still giving 2 teams participation trophies to be in that playoff when you got teams like Notre Dame and you argue for Vanderbilt, or there's better teams, BYU, that could represent college football way better than Tulane and James Madison.
But if you don't give those conferences a chance, there's no point in them sticking around.
I know. I like them having an opportunity, but I don't know. I don't know how you fix it.
Because with 12 teams, it's tough because a national championship contender like Notre Dame gets left out.
I feel sorry for everyone on their schedule next year. Yeah, I do. I do as well. I think Notre Dame's about to just go on a freaking heater next year.
Yeah.
I'm picking them to win it all right now. They've got the recruiting class is insane. They've got the defense back. It finished in the top 15. They're loaded. They are loaded going into next year, and they're gonna hang as many points on everyone every week as they can.
Yeah,
They're not going to
and
slow down.
they're going to run it up every week. I promise you. Can you imagine CJ Carr with another spring under his belt? Look at the progression he made this year alone. He's our guy. We got our guy at quarterback.
Before we move on to Michigan, how do you feel about Notre Dame turning down a bowl game and starting to get kind of a reputation as powders?
Them decide not to go to a bowl game, it means nothing. There's nothing positive about a bowl game. You look at what's happened the last couple years, especially last year, got even more evident with the college football playoff. No one went to their bowl game with the same team that finished the 12th game of the season. The rosters were already shuffled. Guys had already left. Starters don't want to play in that. It's another game where they could risk injury. They're trying to get agents lined up for the draft and the combine. There's no point in playing a bowl game. When they got left out and they show that Miami logo come on the screen, I went, season's over. That's the last time we ever saw Jeremiah Love play, because I knew there's no way they're going to a bowl game. And then one of my buddies texted me a couple hours later, the breaking news: Notre Dame opts out of a bowl game. And I texted him back. I said, well, no kidding. They were never going to go to a bowl game. There's no reason. Did you watch any of the bowl games last year?
They were awful.
It's brutal. It is so brutal. The stands are empty. You don't know any of the players. It's absolutely pointless.
You just need to intertwine the bowl games with the 24 team tournament, and it would just be perfect. Then those stands would be full.
Those are the playing games on championship week. I don't know why they're making it so hard not to just fix it and do it right. But to expand on what Ryan's talking about, I also think there was a little bit of, we're going to stick it to ESPN a little bit, and we're not going to go play and let them make money off of our brand.
Interesting.
I think there was a little bit of that in there, but ultimately, I think they knew going into that show they weren't playing anything other than a playoff game. And I agree with Ryan. Why would you? And if it was any other team, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Did you know Baylor opted out? They're not playing the bowl game. Did you hear anything about Baylor's football? No. But it's Notre Dame, so let's make a big deal about it. Let's talk about it all week on every freaking show about how it's a bad look. People, it's funny because the hate towards Notre Dame is never going to fade away. You love them or you hate them, and the haters just can't stand it that we're so relevant and powerful in college football. It's fact.
Your thoughts on what's going on at Michigan and what's next for that program?
I know Greggy and I talked earlier about it candidly. Obviously, he had to be fired, but there's a lot of stuff coming out now. I know two very well-known podcasters and talk show hosts knew about it weeks ago. Like midway through the season, this story kind of broke, and Michigan started investigating into it. My Michigan guy at work, he said it was on message boards and stuff, even in the summertime. So they've known about this, and it's like, how aggressively, I just wonder how aggressively they pursued it, because I don't think they did, because I think they wanted it to just go away. And then now we're finding out the relationship the female did end the relationship, and he hasn't left her alone and been a real handful and a problem. And she went to the university and admitted, yeah, this is going on, and she wanted to get restraining orders and whatever. So I think they were going to try to just let it go away. And then it looks like the head coach would not let it go away. So
yeah, she forced the university's hand when she initially denied the relationship. And then when she wanted to end it, and I believe she got let go, her employment was terminated. That's when she showed up at the university campus and started dropping receipts on everything that had been happening and all of his stalking allegations and text messages. Eric was going down the right path there, where Michigan slow played this big time just because of the early signing period. And we can never prove that. It's just an opinion. It's a bad look
It looks
that
that way.
you let this go through the earnings signing period just because you're worried about recruits. When you have a man with a wife and 3 daughters of his own, just getting torn apart by this story. It's just another bad look of many to that Michigan athletic department in the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, that's something not a lot of people aren't talking about. Again, back to the Michigan guy I work with, Brian Gibson. He's like, why isn't the athletic director fired by now? And he's a huge Michigan guy, and he's even saying this department is like just embarrassing the last few years of what they've tolerated and kind of tried to hide and keep undercover. Like, why is this athletic director not under fire? So that's something to maybe watch in the future to see if that gains any traction. But my personal thoughts on the whole thing is I think Michigan's always been kind of a dirty, sleazy program anyway. So I hate it for those players and obviously the personal reasons that some of the people involved in what's going on up there is not good. I don't root for any of that type of stuff at all, but just Michigan being Michigan, man, come on. I don't know where they turn. I think they're looking at the Dillingham at Arizona State, and then surprisingly, someone who really seems to know what she's talking about. That Heather Dinich on ESPN, she did a little soundbite earlier. She's like, DeBoer is saying he's not interested in any job. She said, "Don't be surprised if he's not that next coach at Michigan. Even just get through this playoff run. He's keeping his head down, focusing on Alabama." She says that decision is not final. So she seems like she knows what she's talking about. She's right a lot of times. So we'll keep an eye on maybe DeBoer going to Michigan.
I think once they lose to Oklahoma Friday night, Michigan's naming him head coach Sunday afternoon. I know he's denying it, but that's what you have to do when your team's still playing. No one's ever said, "Yeah, I'm interested in that. I want to take that job." They all have to say they're not interested, but I think he's definitely interested, and I don't think they're going to make a strong playoff push. I think their season ends Friday night, and I think talks between him and Michigan will heat up pretty quickly. And I think, Eric, you and I have talked about this. I think Michigan's probably a better fit for him.
Well, it'd be easier to follow Sherrone Moore than Nick Saban.
Yeah.
Or even Jim Harbaugh.
Yep.
He won him a national title, even though he cheated.
Oh, without a doubt. Now that they should put an asterisk on the national championship. That was bull crap.
From a program standpoint, Michigan's going to be fine. It's Michigan Wolverine football. They'll find a coach. They'll get back to their winning ways. It's just a series of bad publicity for that school. When something like this happens, I think of the family and the people involved. I don't think about the coach. He made his decisions, so he gets what he deserves. It's just the family and his young kids that are going to have to deal with all of it once they start going to school and people are talking about their daddy and stuff. It's a shame.
Thanks once again to Eric and Ryan for talking some college football with me. Thank you so much for listening. Always appreciate it. Do us a huge favor, share this podcast with a college football fan in your life. Help us spread the word that the Central Indiana Sports Report is talking about what Central Indiana sports fans are talking about every single day. Thanks again. Central Indiana Sports Report is brought to you by ITG Media, and I love Susie.